yakubibanabantu production. Rise in the land of the living.
KEMBO, TATA na NZAMBI, YAMAZULU, MPUNGU TULENDO, so Nini na Nini SOMANDLA, NGAI, MURUNGU, MWENE, NYAGA, depending on where you are, I greet you. Nusiemi, Betwabu, Mbote, Banabayi, Solelu, MWENE, Abantuana, Abangu. Sawubona, Abantuana, Babao, Weto, Oswe Mazuluin. Moriega Shiana Shiangai, na Kenda Moyo. Dumelan, Mbolani, Mpo, Salama, Watoto, wa Mungu. Yes, it's that time we sit and rightly divide the word of truth. And before getting into it, Banabeto, I tell you, this journey is not for the faint-hearted. Because the system has created, or rather the powers that be and shouldn't be have created a system that makes it difficult to walk this path. I, son of Muntu Wanankosi, Nkosi Yamankosi, Yamazulu, sit here to encourage you. If you follow the river to the source, you will end up at your destination. So let's get right into it. May truth, justice, love be our guide as we disseminate the truth. THAAYU. Just a recap, in case you're joining us for the second installation of the Bakongo KEMETIC Connection. The Bakongo followed the Nile from Abyssinia, or modern-day Ethiopia, and settled in Kingipiti, Egypt if you prefer. We also found that a patriarch of the Bakongo was the pharaoh Kenato, or Amenopis if you prefer. The queen of Saba, Queen Sheba if you prefer, Makenda Saba, married King Solomon. She was a Bakongo. The Bakongo left Abyssinia and moved to Namibia. From this cohabitation, this is with the Khoisan people. You find the Herero people rising. Sometimes in the legend of the creation of the Congo, the MWENE Lukeni, you see the use of the name MWENE amongst the Bakongo, amongst the Gikuyu, MWENE NYAGA, MWENE Lukeni Lwa Nini, Nimi ya Lukeni, is mentioned from the years 2020 or 1690, as the exploits of those dates were achieved by him. This is due to its legendary greatness, of course. This was the work of his forefathers. They're talking of MBEMBAZULU, a title that can only be translated as prophet. We have Nemwanda Congo, the spirit, Mwanda Nsemi, Mwanda Congo, the spirit of the Most High, Roho Angai, appears to him and appoints him as the great chief. And Sasukulu Ankanda, this title can only also be translated as prophet. And at this point, when we talk of prophet, we are talking of Oro, Amondomogo, those of Ago, those of Atene. Kodi Pwanga, a title which can only be translated as a prophet, a seer if you prefer, one with a gift of sight, because you are given 4. That is Oradi, the gift of prophecy. You are given O, that is a specific gift that you're given. You're given wealth, Otonga. you are given Odhamaki, the kingdom. And if you are a male child, you're given courage, Oshamba. Tuti Diatia was also a great prophet. Now this is the ancestry according to the Bakongo, quote unquote, mythology. The Congo Bena were conducted by Nakulunzi and Mama Bemba, a women prophet, and they came around Mount Ntotela, Don KEMBO, Wamoneswa, led by the high priests to the mountainside of Congo, Ntotela, where the supreme deity Congo came down and gave the laws to the Benakongo. We've always been a matriarchal society, but let your understanding lead you to the place where it was conditioned not to go. Pharaoh Pepi II, the fifth king of the dynasty, became an important ruler, inheriting the throne as a young child. He ruled the nation for a lengthy 94 years, the longest of any king in history. In his time, a man called Hakuf made 4 important voyages into Central Africa from Elephantine. From the inscriptions in Hakuf's tomb, we learn that he brought back a number of foreign goods, including ebony, incense, ivory, oils, and panther skins. He also returned with a person. I will not insult them by calling them that name, but they are people of short stature. Very impressed with his voyage, Pepi II, the child king, wrote to Hakuf saying, now, how keen he was to meet him. His letter reads as follows: come forth to the palace at once. Hurry and bring with you this man of short stature whom you brought from the land of the horizon dwellers, who does, and listen to this, Banabeto, the dances of the gods. When he goes with you into the ship, place worthy men around him on deck, lest he fall into the water. When he sleeps, surround him with worthy men in his tent. Inspect him 10 times at night. My Majesty wishes to see this man of short stature more than the gifts of the 9 lands. Orders have been given to the town mayors and overseers of priests that supplies are to be furnished for you from every storage depot and every temple. Years later, Pepi II became a great conqueror, having met a Benakongo from the Aka tribe. The Aka, if we look at the Kikuyu phonology of it, would mean the women, but it would also mean to build. He became a great conqueror, seizing control of countries to the south, such as Wawat, Ithet, and Punt. In later years, however, things fell apart. Pepi's 9 decades on the throne were accompanied by growth in the surrounding kingdoms. By growth, later to be attacked by the surrounding kingdoms. And this is why if you're following the Casa Banabeto, that would have been an alabaster or soapstone carving, I'm not quite sure, because I have not seen it physically, of Pepi II as a child with his mother, Queen Agnes Meyere the First. And there's a pyramid of Pepi II. Pepi Nefakare, or Netakare, Netakare. But this should actually be Netar Kara. Probably either 2022-16 or 2084 BC was a pharaoh, and I've always reiterated that pharaoh means the great house, not the king. The king was actually the Nisu. And in some place you'd have that as the Negus or the Nigus. His second name, Nefakara, the literature will tell you it's Re, but it's Ra, means beautiful, is the Ka, of the light, or Ra, if you prefer. He succeeded to the throne at 6 after the death of Merenre I. Pepi's reign remarked a sharp decline of the old kingdom. As the power of the monarchs grew, the power of the pharaoh, the great house, declined. With no dominant central power, local nobles began raiding each other's territories, and the old kingdom came to an end with a couple of years after Pepi's reign. We have seen this in the first installation of this series. The enemy would pit a community against a community. The remedy for this would have been polygamy, where this community would give one of their daughters to marry into the king's court. So that would cement that relationship. Polygamy had nothing to do with misogynistic tendencies, as the historical books or the history that is out there would have you believe. It's common logic. It's not rocket science, Banabetu. My humble submission to you. Now, these are the people of short stature. In the Western, we'd find them as the Bambenga or the Mbenga, that is Cameroon, modern day Cameroon, Gabon, the Republic of Congo, and the Central African Republic. In the Eastern, you'll find them as the Bambuti or the Mbuti, that is in the Congo Basin. In the Central and Southern Batwa or Toa, that is Rwanda, Burundi, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Tanzania, Uganda, Zambia, Angola, and Namibia. Now, Banabeto, they tell you that what we do is black magic. It is black. But if it is magic, then the Bible would be the greatest grimoire ever written in its esoteric nature. If you look at image number 3 or C, you will see that is a representation of what I'm holding in my hand, the fly swatter, the fly whisk, if you prefer, which most would not realize inverted represents the sign of life. And this is Bantu antiquity. So those in Kingipiti, those in the metropolitans of the Bantu, because if you go into antiquity, you'll find that minerals were not mined by men. They were mined by women because it was considered raping the great mother. And when we talk of the fallen ones, they taught men how to make weapons. But the first weapon ever given to Muntu was Ankisi, an instrument of power, not a sword. Because spirituality is all about keeping the balance between the physical realm and the realm beyond Kalunga, the realm beyond the water covering, or if you prefer, the firmament, the cosmos. And that is why we raise our hands in prayer, you know, to signify the bull, the strength of the ox. But we are not worshiping the bull. And that is why the misconception in the world religions would come. In comes the holy cow, in comes the red heifer, which these are only watered down and plagiarized versions of our spirituality. The fly swatter that you see with every leader, the diadem of power. Her Royal Majesty Queen Gingone holds one. the diadem of power. And she sits on the throne of her people, 17th crown queen. Queen Diambi, Kabatswila, Chioyo Mwata, sits on the throne, and in her hand, she will always have the diadem of her people. The kings of old will always have in their hand the diadems of their people. The car or the spirit is not the understanding of the spirit of the Most High. It did not come with the onset of Christianity or the Holy Spirit. We've talked of Netar. Netar being the godlike stature in you. And because of the deterioration of the language due to dispersion, that is why if you look at Chikam, most esteemed, thanks to Asa Imhotep for taking the time to break this code and allowing us to connect this. I keep saying this awakening is multifaceted, and to each is given a light. Treasure the light you have been given until a higher light is given. That is why I will not teach what any other teacher is teaching, because they are doing what they're supposed to be doing in this particular time. Their purpose is to get our people out of slavery in certain aspects. But it's a journey, not a destination. That's why we say Marungu. There are steps to the awakening. Most of us get to one point and get comfortable. Nkole onkwele would mean the Most High. From the Netar. That is where you get Tanateru, the land of the gods. Bankole or Bankola would be spirits or ghosts. Mukulu. And that is where you get Nkulu Nkulu. Who? The one in Ulu or Igulu, Igoro. To Zulu, we have found that it is to traverse the cosmos. The one who traverses the cosmos. Then Kulunkulu, the spirit of spirits. That is why when you add the aspect of Mu to Kulu, then that becomes Mukulu. Kale, which means strong, well, robust, or ago, or Kale in Swahili means long ago. The ancient of days, one that was established in the beginning of times of time. Firm, steady, stable, solid, hard, immovable. And now you find that, because Chikam was written without vowels. So the N remains as that. Because of the sound, the vibration becomes K, and there's the R and the R, as you can see, Iguru, Igulu, Zulu, Mukulu, Mukuru. Ikala, to stay, to remain. Jerusalem, Ikala Yame. From Kale, strong, that which of it is established. I will establish my city. I will establish my mountain. And Bukale, which would be secret. And we are just going to look at its variations in different languages. Nkisi, or the plural Minkisi, is a West African, in West African law, is any object, now listen to this, any object or material substance invested with sacred energy and made available for spiritual protection. One tradition of the Congo people of West Central Africa holds that the god Funza in Swahili would mean to teach, and he taught man, gave the world the first Nkisi. And from Nk, then Neta, you find the term Nkosi, denoting the divine king. Nkosi amankosi, Nkisi, the divine object. That's why Banabeto in their cognitive dissonance will accept the title Nkosi and reject the Ankh, Ankosi. Because why? We only have the Bible as a reference. But the etymology and the vibration of the language is why most people are lost. Because you're vibrating on vibrations which do not connect you. Images, mirror, look alike. Shiamehianano, those that look alike, the images, the copy. And I reiterate, Banaveto, there is a way which seems right to man, but its end is the way of death. There is a path before each person that seems right, but in the end will only lead to death. The Hopi people have told us, once you see the sign of life taken out of its place, then know the end is near. They call it the great shaking. And I will be looking at the Hopi people. There are only 12 Bantu languages spoken on the continent that have similar vibrations to the ancient language, 12. And by his guidance, by his ngolo for his KEMBO, we will be looking at all those languages by the divine intervention. These are languages I have never spoken in my life. But I'm able to understand them. Because even when these revelations are given, I'm not given words, I'm given symbols. But Araika Areri, the Maliki Ma'akongo, have granted me the privilege to have this interpretation. And what is freely given to me, freely I give. That is why I sit here and disseminate this truth on this joyous Isabata. Idols, from the Greek word eidolon, image, first takes on a religious meaning in the Greek translation of the Hebrew Bible, known as the Septuagint. And that would have been the 3rd to the 2nd centuries BCE, where it refers to the physical representations of deities. But then the image was taken to allude to the fetish, the instrument of power. The Hebrew Bible has often characterized as concerned with the problem of idolatry. The term itself is of a Greek origin. That is why I say the kiro nero orero amogiriki. The kiro is the instrument of power of the Greco-Romans. It has nothing to do with you. So why are you trying to draw power that is not yours? Huh? How many churches are there in Africa? How many pastors, evangelists, most honored, right reverends, and all those titles which mean nothing? Because actually, a bishop would have been the head of a pagan society. That is why the bishops were called to the Council of Nicene. And that has been tradition. That is why the bishops go and elect the one that sits on the throne of the great horn, the horn in the middle of the other horns. The term itself is of Greek origin, meaning worship of images, and no simple equivalent, listen to this, exists in the biblical Hebrew. Later Hebrew uses the term avodah zarah, often translated into English as idolatry. And Banaveto, this is a language that I have analyzed in detail. the vibration. Where the term idolatry implies a specific concern with images, avoda zara, strange worship. What would have been strange to the Ashkenazi? And refers more to generally to religious practices deemed wrong or foreign. They have gone a-whoring with gods whom their ancestors knew not. You see, in the Congo scepter, is a representation of the bull and the sign of life. The diadem of power and the fly swatter, as you can see it here. And most of these instruments of our power, the kisses of our ancestors, those that were handed down generation to generation, are in museums or being sold off in auctions. So they hold the power of your ancestors in their hands and then give you the diadems of their ancestors, which are no good to you, because all true belief only comes from the Bakongo, Vanabilaka. The lunar festival, the new moon that we recently had in Kingipiti was known as the Hebed Netar. And it's symbolized with the diadems of power. In ancient Isolele Ndorere, Rorere, which would mean the remnant, the first day of each month, the day after the new moon was sighted, was a feast day with the ordinances similar to those of Isabata, which is linked in several passages in 2 Kings 4:2. In Numbers 28:11-15, the sacrifices for it are prescribed in detail. The antiquity of the feast is clear. However, from allusions in prophets, that is Isaiah 1:13-14, Hosea 2:13, and Amos 8:5, and the new moon dinner at the royal court requiring ritual purity. There's purifications that have to be done. Because the sun will illuminate your path, or any light will illuminate your path, but the sun will not help you taking the step, the first step and the second step, the third step on that journey. It will only give you the light so that you can see where you're going. But where you decide to go is a step that you take. It's described in 1 Samuel verse 20, from 5-29. Like the Sabbath, it was a day of rest from work. We find these inscriptions in the pottery. The Hebed Netar was meant to give KEMBO, THAAYU, to the Obatala, as the Yoruba would know him, which would mean the white cloth, signifying what? The purity. MWENE NYAGA, the one with white, that purity, equatable to snow or the ostrich feathers, which are white, signifying that purity. Ovinguna Oderu, the Obatala. And it's no coincidence that you find Obatala becomes SOMANDLA. You've heard me say it. KEMBO, TATA na NZAMBI, YAMAZULU, MPUNGU TULENDO. So Nini na Nini, SOMANDLA. Ubao weto oswe mazuluini. Ewe nkosi ya mankosi, YAMAZULU. And what is in the vibration? What is in the name Banabeto? The Natar. Because this is history about sub-Saharan Africa. Tanateru, the land of the gods. The Ba the Egyptian soul, is what the Akan people of the Niger Congo would call the okra. Those of Niger Congo, the Ga would call it Ka or Ka. The Bilen who are Cushitic would call it Inkera. Inkera. Those of Tio of Niger Congo call it Nkira, spirit. Now, Kira means to be silent. Okirine, the place of silence, is what the spiritual realm is called. When you cross over, your silence is heard on this realm. And then you go to Okirine. You cease to be a Ngomi Njigo, a wet spirit, and become a dry spirit. And that is what they tried to do in their Kabbalistic spell casting. With the Nun Peshin taken together, they spell Nefesh. Nefesh, or that which takes the spirit. Nun is the 14th letter in the Hebrew alphabet, and it has a numerical value of 50. And it makes a sound like the N in now. Nkosi. Nkulu, nkulu. Now. Do not be fooled, Banabeto. You have to know what it is you're saying. Because I see many of you, remarkable as it may be, the passion that you have in understanding your culture. But be sure you know exactly what it is you're saying, lest you invite things into your life that you do not know how to handle. Spread in Hebrew and fish in Aramaic. We looked at that, the term Modamaki. Damaki is fish. Modamaki is a ruler. The Nun has an end of a Zayin. The body is an elongated Zayin. The Nun is one of the 5 letters, Kaf, Mem, Nun, Pe, and the Sed, that have 2 forms. Do not be deceived. And pay attention, Banabet, because I'm giving you a secret that will help you in this awakening. It's good what you're getting out there, because it's truth. But truth in partiality is destructive and detrimental. The regular bent form used in the beginning and the middle of the word, according to the ancient Kabbalistic text, the Bahir, the bent Nun represents the spinal cord, through which the body is fed by the brain, that of which connects your soul to your body, to your heart. They will deceive you that the heart pumps blood. The life is in the blood. Blood has its own force. The heart is just a receptacle. And even what you believe that I'm listening to my heart, that is a myogenic organ. The human understanding of the heart in terms of receiving energy is different from what has been presented to us. The final Nun represents by its shape man who walks erect and who mystically combines male and female. THAAYU. Let those with understanding understand. The Ba or the soul, that is where we get Ba or Tata from, the soul of souls, represented by this symbol, which would be the staff Tata or NGAI, Nkai. Now you see where the in comes in. And I have repeated that NGAI in Kikongo means I am. The Maasai would call him Nkai, pronounced Nkai, NGAI, which would have been the name given in Exodus. But you see, those that wanted to interpret this culture would only allude to the understanding. Try learning a language, a foreign language, using a secondary language. Words will get lost into translation. And then with the onset, when he has pulled his spirit, and we are in the reign of information, so much information out there, but only the spirit and the guidance of the ancestors can help you discern. This is not an academic exercise whatsoever. And do you know what happens when you do not understand what you're saying? Oka means to come. So when I say Oka, I'm calling your spirit. All living things had a car. And that is why Africa should not even be spelled with a C. Akango, Mwanda Kongo, or Mwanda Kango. Congo, Congo, Right. From plants to animals and on up to the gods. Don't you know ye are like gods? Which was evident in that they were simply alive. The life force, the car. The ba is most often translated as soul and was a human-headed bird aspect which could speed towards earth and the heavens. To Zulu. The only thing they knew at that time that would do that was a bird. So naturally, they'll represent it with a bird, especially between the afterlife and one's corpse. The crossing over. What happens when you take the wrong vibration? Phonetic value of this sign would have been, the crest would have been the burial. As I said, when you see the sign of life taken from its place, then know the end is near. As I said, Banabeto, there is a way which seems right to man, but its end is the way of death. There is a path before each person that seems right, but it ends in death. You choose for yourselves today whom you will serve, whose laws you will keep. But as for me and my household, we will serve the Mogai of my ancestors, who my brothers and sisters in the central call TATA na NZAMBI, the dweller of YAMAZULU, who is MPUNGU TULENDO. And in the south, he is known as Nini na Nini SOMANDLA, Ubawe to Oswe Mazulwini. And in the east, we know him as NGAI MURUNGU MWENE Keduri Kenene, our MURUNGU. Mompi wale na iguru, NGAI wage koyo na mompi, NGAI wa maidenat. For therein lies life. Anything else that was translated using this sign, the Christos, Christo, Karest, Christ, Krish. Your ancestors have told you where it leads. May your minds be led to the place they were conditioned not to go. Banaveto. I only purpose to give you truth, because I have been in situations where only he would have been the author of that, where only his guidance would have been what brought us out. We are seeking understanding. Yes, Banabeto. If you do not follow the ancient paths, do not say you are not told. For those with ears will hear. May our mothers give us ululations, for blessings doth come from home. Do not say when the song was sung, you are not born, for it is in your heart. And we thank NGAI MURUNGU MWENE NYAGA for returning us to the ancient paths. Our MURUNGU MWENE NYAGA tikatwarwatha tukambere ya kutwenyihetie. Thai Dada Yangai Thai, Thai Dada Yangai Thai, Thai Dada Yangai Thai. Maroigwa. Magube njalo, ingeta, until next time, I keep asking you, Ngubani, who are you? Know thyself, stay true to the law of the Most High. Joyous Isabata.
Rise of a Nation, sounds from a liberated Bantu.
yakubibanabantu.
All praises to Nini. MWENE. Rise of a Nation, sounds from a liberated Bantu.
yakubibanabantu.